Am I ready? Am I ready? I think I'm ready. Hang on. Hello, it's Brian here, and today I'm taking part in the vinyl tags. This is my not very official response to the not very official vinyl tag 2026, started by David Atkinson, the handsome dude you see here. So this year, David came up with the questions. I think most people associate the tag with Rob Walker, who had done it many years, but of course last year someone else did it. But yeah, this year we have David's take on it. 20 questions as usual, and many people will tell you this is a great way to start your channel if you're looking to start one, because you don't have to think of content, you just do these questions. And I was about to say that, and maybe I've said it in the past, but in fact, the vinyl tag was not my first video when I started my channel. It was something else, although I did start it in January. So I'm going to get going with this. Now, I did take a bit of a break on YouTube. You might have noticed it's been 2 or 2.5 weeks since I posted a video. Unfortunately, it also meant that I didn't watch a lot of videos, so I've seen a few. So I have some catching up to do, and hopefully I'll get to it, but I have missed many videos, unfortunately. I mean, things were busy around here. The kids are off school. Things were happening, Christmas, New Year's. In fact, my eldest son was back from university, so he was sleeping over there. So it would have been awkward to make a video in this space because he's sleeping right there. You would have heard snoring, perhaps. Enough excuses. Let's start 2026 off with my response to the not very official vinyl tag. Question number 1. Show your best vinyl or other format musical purchase of 2025. Well, the best thing I got in 2025, I didn't actually pay for, but I will show you something I paid for. Now, I already mentioned David Atkinson came to Toronto, and he brought me some records, very generously gave me a very large number of records, and one of them I was just blown away by. Well, I like them all, but the Blue Nile, A Walk Across the Rooftops, is an album I've long been interested in. I've sampled parts of it, but I'd never listened to the entire thing. This is a fantastic record. Now, the only problem with owning this is that I feel like I need to buy the other records from the Blue Nile, which is difficult here. Now, they have been reissued. I could easily get reissue copies of them. Currently, they're quite expensive, though. This is an original UK pressing from 1983. Might be able to see the track listing there. This is a stellar record. It is really, really good. And I will be keeping my eyes open for other records from the Blue Nile because I really love this record. The reissues even are quite expensive. My local store had them for around $70, which I think is outrageous. But because the question asked about purchases, I will just quickly mention that I bought these 2 Parade Ground records, the Golden Years and the Hidden Side, which is this Belgian EBM music. And I would say that this year, this is probably the records I've listened to the most. It covers the 1981 to 1988 period. You know, those original recordings, especially the 12-inch singles and the 7-inch singles, are really difficult to find. So this is a nice compilation of most things you'd want to hear from this band. Really terrific. They worked with Front 242 and members of Wire. Really fantastic. If you like that kind of music, I think they're fantastic. So I was really happy to find those reissues. Number 2, share your favorite live musical experience of 2025. Now, to be honest, I haven't really gone to a lot of concerts over the last few years, and the primary reason for that is I do have a bit of tinnitus, or tinnitus, whatever you prefer. Now, in average situations, I don't notice it. It's in spaces where there's absolute quiet, I can hear a gentle ringing in my ears. But it did mean that I was careful about going to shows because, as you know, if you're at a live show and you leave, you have that ringing in your ears. And I thought I would be damaging my ears further by that. And my hearing is, I've had my hearing tested, it's normal, I can hear perfectly well. But I was worried about damaging my hearing. But this year, I guess it's last year now, I purchased a pair of loop earplugs. So you may know about them. There's similar products for people who drive motorcycles. It just cuts down the wind noise and the engine noise. So what this does is it simply just reduces the volume of the show and you can continue to hear it. And I went to some shows this year, and when I left, I found that I had no ringing in my ears whatsoever. So I did take them out. The first show I went to, I did take them out for a minute just to hear what the authentic sound of the show was, and then put them in. And there is a slight change. It's noticeably quieter. And there's 2 settings. There's an extra thing you can attach to reduce it even further. So I would say it's not 100% what you'd hear. It's lower volume, a slight change of sound. I don't think, maybe it's just me, there's a slight change of sound, but it sounds really good to me. So with those, I was eager to go to shows. So one thing I went to this year, which, and it might surprise you that I'd never seen this band before, was OMD, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. Despite my multi-part OMD video series, I had never ever seen them, so that was a weird omission. So when I got the loop earplugs and they were coming to town, I thought, okay, I will go see OMD. This is just a different live record, just to show you something. And if you have a gatefold, you have to show it. So here it is. So yeah, I thought this was a really, really good show. They played a lot of the songs I wanted to hear. They started out with Messages, probably my favorite OMD track. So covering all eras of OMD, I thought it was really good. Took place at a venue called History in Toronto, which is sadly on the other side of town, which means a really epically long transit ride, or driving, which means you have to pay the extortionate parking fees at that venue. It's owned by Drake, by the way, if you're curious. But it's a really good venue. I really love the space. I've been to other things there. I thought it was really good. Whew. Number 3. Your vinyl record collection in 10 years' time. Is it bigger, smaller, or about the same? Explain why. I'm going to say it's going to be different, but probably bigger. So I've never done a room tour here, but essentially there's records in this direction and all the way to that wall. And essentially most of these cubes are full. There's room to put in a few more if I want. I have things on top as well. So some time ago, I did a video about, I think I did 3 videos where I showed what I was purging, and I got rid of all those records. Some I sold, some I gave to a thrift shop, and some I just disposed of. Some I gave away, actually. And you can't see this, but right beside me is a crate which has 51 records, because I counted, and beside that there's another 16 or 17 records that I have pulled off the shelf here to get rid of. So in other words, I am downsizing, and not just records. I recently have taken on selling things I don't think I'll ever need again. So I've sold, well, in terms of music, some records. For example, I just sold a duplicate copy of an early Depeche Mode record called A Broken Frame for $25. I sold records from bands like Bread and Rossington Collins and the Doobie Brothers and things like that I didn't want. I've sold CD box sets. I have sold books. I've sold 4 old cameras. It's all part of a stereo renewal process. So the record collection undoubtedly will be a bit bigger, but I think it's fair to say that I'll have done some weeding, or pruning if you prefer. The other thing is, I think that I don't feel I'll buy as many brand new records. I don't know about you, but the price of new vinyl is astronomical. I go into stores and I just cannot believe the prices they're charging. So I'm probably going to rely more on the used market, or unfortunately, maybe even Amazon, because sometimes they have deals that are just unbeatable. So maybe fewer new records. Okay, moving right along at a snail's pace. You move into a new home, you play one record turned up to 11 to announce your arrival. What is it? And why? Part of that might depend on the season, but I am going to choose Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare, because I think it would be funny. The other reason why I'd play this is Mark Morris. Thank you, Mark. So, number 5, show 2 albums, one each of your favorite male and female singers. Why these 2? Now, I'm going to choose... Some people might think my favorite singer is a different person, but in fact, for the last 40 years, my favorite singer has been Leonard Cohen. Now, he's not releasing new music, of course, because he's no longer with us, but if pressed, I would say Leonard Cohen is my favorite singer. And it's funny to know that this question said favorite singer rather than favorite artist, because Leonard Cohen has never been a very strong vocalist. Some people complain about Bob Dylan or Tom Waits or other singers. He's not a strong vocalist, but his strength is lyrics, I would say. In my opinion, the best lyricist of the 20th and 21st century. Bob Dylan is probably a musical genius, but I think Leonard owns that. By the way, this is a fantastic cover. This came up in a group chat recently, and there's the gatefold. Not my favorite Leonard Cohen record, but a very good one. One day I might do a Leonard Cohen ranking. So, has long been my favorite singer since back probably since 1980, 81. Always loved him. But for a long time he was marginalized here in Canada. You couldn't even buy his books, or his books of poetry, or his novels, or his records. Even CDs. I had to buy CDs on import from Holland, strangely enough. But that's another story altogether. And for a female singer, I don't think there's any question about this. I think it's Kate Bush. This is The Dreaming. I think I prefer The Hounds of Love in terms of a whole, like an album. But she is fascinating to me. Again, she has a voice that has that lush, sensual side, and then she has that sort of almost screaming, really intense, rich soprano voice that she sometimes sings with. And some people don't like that. I find it really entertaining. I'm not sure what the first Kate Bush record I got was, but again, I find her endlessly fascinating. I really love the way she does her music. There's a bit of a prog element to some of her music, sometimes very pop, but Kate Bush, for sure, favorite female singer. All right. Let's go to the next question, which is number 6. We like to have fun here. Show your top 3 soul or dance records. Now, I struggled with this a bit because is a dance record a record you can dance to it? Does it have the genre of dance? So I chose a record where I think you could dance to pretty much every song, and maybe we did back in the day. So it's not a soul record, but it's The Violent Femmes, the debut record from 1982. I didn't know this record in 82. It took me 2 or 3 years to discover this record or to find this record. I saw them in concert once. I felt they were a little underwhelming because they didn't say anything to the crowd. They just played their songs one after the other and left. But it was interesting to see them. But this record is a stone cold classic. It has such killer tracks that were often played where I was hanging out, like Blister in the Sun. By the way, this is the Canadian original pressing. Kiss Off, Add It Up, some salacious lyrics, of course. Gone Daddy Gone, Prove My Love. Really terrific album. No inner sleeve though, or no printed inner sleeve. Really fantastic. I've had that for years. From a strictly soul or soul funk perspective, I chose this record by Stevie Wonder called Inner Visions from some time ago, and I don't know when. Anyway, 73. I found that by the time I knew really who Stevie Wonder was, I didn't like him, and that's probably because of the 80s music he was releasing. I just don't like all of that 80s stuff that he did. I think it's terrible, and later. But this record, I found it at a thrift shop for $1 or $2, and I love it. We've got Living for the Cities on here, Higher Ground is on here. Really, really great piece of work. I really like it. And some of his other records around this time, too, I think are also really fantastic. So I would include this. And then for more of a contemporary soul kind of record, I chose Amy Winehouse, Back to Black. From, you'd think I'd look this up, 2006. I find it interesting that people have strong memories of where they were when they heard that someone died. Our parents' generation, it was like, where were you when JFK died or 9/11 happened? And I do have memories of musicians dying and where I was, but for her, I don't remember what I was doing or where I was when I found out she died, but I do remember exactly where I was the first time I heard the first track on here, Rehab. Someone had a CD, put it on. I was transfixed. I heard of her. I heard about her before, never heard her before, and the voice just kind of floored me. I loved the production, the sound of this record. Well, it was on CD at the time. I thought it was phenomenal. So I have a very vivid memory of hearing this album for the very first time. I think it's terrific. There's no printed inner sleeve in that one either. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. Of course, my technology's timed out here. Number 7, a real stinker. Nominate a track you hate from an album you love. Why the hate? Now, I've only watched 1 or 2 of these responses to the vinyl tag, and I have to imagine that someone's probably already mentioned this, and that is from The Police, Synchronicity from 83. There is one track on here that I don't think fits the record. It's Mother. Now, I don't hate the song. In fact, I actually don't mind it at all, but I don't think it fits on the record. Now, I wish they had put on Murder by Numbers and taken Mother off. I know Murder by Numbers appeared on the cassette version at the time. It's on this compact disc, but I wish they had taken Mother off. Now, Mother is an interesting song. It's kind of crazy in a way. Some people don't like it. I would say that I like it. I just don't think it fits on the record. And I think they should have put something else on it. All right. 14 minutes. Number 8, if you had to pick only one album for each of the last 6 decades, what would they be? All right, good question. And for me, for the 60s, I mean, you got the Beatles, you got the Stones, but I would choose, and you've got early Led Zeppelin, I would choose the Velvet Underground and Nico, the debut record. from the Velvet Underground from 1967. This is not an original. This is a Canadian pressing from the 80s when I started buying records. So I've never felt the need to seek out an earlier copy. This sounds fine to my ears. I will say, though, that when I did get it, I found that I didn't love the Nico songs. Now, I've changed my mind on that. I really love the Nico tracks. In fact, I think I have all of her solo records over here. But at the time, I was a Lou Reed fan. I came to the Velvet Underground via Lou Reed. So Lou Reed first, and then the Velvet Underground. And in some respects, John Cale, and then the Velvet Underground. And I love this album. Like, every time I play it, I like it even more, if that makes sense. I don't get sick of it. It's got that deceptively calming, pleasant Sunday morning as an introduction. And then we go into, like, I'm Waiting for the Man, about a drug deal. We've got Heroin, All Tomorrow's Party. Just a really interesting record. Like, that first track would just make you think you're going to listen to something completely different, and then eventually you're into the Black Angels' Death Song. So, yeah, really, really phenomenal record. And only 2 people on this record are still with us today, so that's also sad. From the 70s, okay, I'm choosing a record that wasn't released in Canada until January 1980, but it was released in the UK in 1979. So I'm including this as the 70s. The date on the back of this record is 1979. If you've watched me for long enough, you're going to know that I'm going to show London Calling. Easily a record that would make my top 5 of all time. I think this is truly a phenomenal record. And I had been familiar with the Clash before this. I don't think I'd ever owned any Clash records before this. This is probably the first one I bought. And I bought it primarily because of the track Train in Vain, the hidden 5th track on side 4. And when I played the record, I realized that's not even anywhere close to the best track on the record, yet it was the single. And this is a masterpiece from track to track. They've never equaled this. The records that came after weren't as good as this. This is the peak for me. This is the best record they ever done. Best record of the 70s. And if you've watched the Stranger Things season 5, you'll have cringed when you see that scene where that woman is mishandling records, especially this particular record. So that really bothered me. But anyway, Clash, London Calling. And again, I don't know if these are necessarily your favorite records from each decade. Just show one from each decade that you like, I guess. So 80s. The Queen is Dead from the Smiths. Absolutely brilliant. Love that album cover. Everything about this record is great. Oh, it's got a gatefold, so I have to show it to you. There we go. Absolutely great. Now, I was familiar with the Smiths before this record, of course, and I really liked them, but I wasn't really prepared for the first track on here. The Queen is Dead seemed to me to be unlike any other Smiths track I had ever heard. Loved the lyrics. I think it's really cool. You got a few quieter pieces like I Know It's Over, Never Had No One Ever, and of course, There's a Light That Never Goes Out. Some people complain about the last track, Some Girls Are Bigger Than Others. I think it kind of works in this record. It's kind of almost a throwaway track, but it's funny. It's got humor in there, which you might not expect. But this, maybe my favorite record from the 80s. Then we're going to the 90s. And again, you're going to laugh at this because I've chosen Lou Reed and John Cale's Songs for Drella. In some respects, it's kind of amazing they were able to get together to do an album after what transpired in the Velvet Underground when John Cale was, I guess, asked to leave or voted out of the Velvet Underground. They got back together to make this record. You can see the image of Andy Warhol, Drella there in the background. And for me, this is the best record either of these guys have ever made after the Velvet Underground. Easily. I mean, it's just a really thoughtful record that attempts to recount the experiences that they had with Andy Warhol in the factory years, and just magnificent. This is probably a masterpiece. If you want to get it, if you don't know it, style it takes, fantastic song that John sang. What else? I don't know. Hello, It's Me. Really awesome record, which bizarrely has a punch out. So I guess it was remastered. Who would have thought that? I think it's brilliant. That's the 90s. That came out in 1990, by the way. So probably recorded in like 89. From the 2000s, we're going to 2005. And one of my favorite American bands at the moment, Hold Steady, has been for a long time. I think this band should be more famous. Now, lots of people know about this band. They have quite a lot of attention, but Separation Sunday from 2005 is, in my opinion, the best thing they've ever done. It's kind of like a concept record. Love the album cover there. It's about Holly, short for Hallelujah, who is portrayed, or kind of profiled here on this record. Some amazing guitar work, especially Banging Camp and Stevie Nicks. Everything. If this will just get under your skin. If you listen to this like 4 or 5 times, you'll just love the guitar work on this record. It is really great. This is a white vinyl copy. And there is a deluxe edition coming out, which I'm really looking forward to. Now, normally I don't buy deluxe editions because it's just repeating a lot of things I have. But in this case, I will buy the deluxe edition of that record because I love it so much. Now we're moving on to the 2010s. Is that where I am? The 2010s. And I honestly could have picked almost any record from this band because they're another of my favorite American bands. That is Spoon. So for the purposes of this, I chose one of their records from the 2000s and 10s. This is 2019. This is Transference. They are, again, a band that I think should be more famous. They're really good. I just think, I don't know why they're not more famous. I mean, they are. It's, again, they're famous in certain areas, but the Mystery Zone, listen to that track if you're curious. Really great band. Every record they've done has been terrific. I did exclude a lot of other bands that I was thinking, but it was hard to narrow it down. Number 9, you get the opportunity to spend a day alone with one artist, walking on a mountain trail, the beach, or hanging out in the city. Who would that artist be? My first thought was living or dead, because if you could choose a dead artist, I might choose somebody differently. My second suggestion was Olivia Rodrigo. That seems a little creepy. 3, I'm going to choose someone I think people would expect me to choose, although, to be honest, I don't really have this desire to meet a lot of musicians. I have met some musicians, and I've enjoyed meeting them and talking to them, but I don't have this burning desire to speak to one musician and spend an afternoon with them. I think that's not something I've really thought of, but because people are expecting me to say this, I'm going to say John Cale. And the second follow-up question is, what would be your must-ask question? And mine would be, why did you release Caribbean Sunset? Now, I know some people love this record from John Cale. For me, it's a weak point in his catalog. Now, some people are going to be upset with me for saying that. Some of these songs I think would be better if produced differently, but that might be a question. This is also a remainder. Where are we now? Number 11. Where are we? 22 minutes. Show a record that contains a track that always brings a tear to your eye, or are you a heartless bastard? Well, my first thought on this was, there's 2 things I thought of. Yes, I am a heartless bastard. I don't think any song has ever brought a tear to my eye. My second thought was ABBA, which we'll circle back to. ABBA, I just don't understand it. But I will show you something I think is ineffably sad. So Nick Cave's Skeleton Tree and Ghosteen, these are very sad records, and you listen to them and you just feel the weight of grief. It seems to me anyway. In fact, I was playing this once and Cecile was like, what is this music? So yeah, it is a heavy piece of music, both of them. And other things from Nick Cave perhaps too, but nothing has ever brought a tear to my eye. So I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that. I will keep it in the back of my mind. If that happens, I'll let people know. Breaking news. Show 3 albums from artists you've tried to love, but you're questioning why you bother. Okay, so I don't have an album from this band. I have a single, and you might think, why did I actually ever try to like this band? In fact, I did, and I'm talking about ABBA. So I have this 45, which has Should I Laugh or Cry and Cassandra, which I gave to my dad probably 35 or 40 years ago. I got it back when he passed away. And there was a point in my life where I was surrounded by ABBA no matter what I did in the car, at home. I thought, okay, let's just give in. Let's just listen to it. Let's enjoy it. Let's sing along with it. Let's sort of appreciate the music. But it just didn't work for me. So I tried because he loved the band and I just couldn't get it. So no, I'm no longer going to try to get into ABBA because I just don't really like it. And another band that I have tried. In fact, I have like 3 or 4 records from this band, plus this box set, if you can believe it, from ELO, the Electric Light Orchestra. This particular thing has On the Third Day, El Dorado, and Face the Music. Now, 1 or 2 ELO songs here or there doesn't really bother me too much, but I sit and listen to it, and I appreciate some of it, but I'm not driven to buy ELO's records. Now you might wonder, why do I have so many? Well, these things came to me either thrift stores or very cheaply. I can't remember where I got this. It wasn't that expensive, and it has a nice little booklet in here with some information, and also the 3 records in question are in here. So yeah, I don't. In fact, ELO was on my long list of purge things to purge, but I haven't purged them yet. I'm thinking about it, but we'll see how that goes. And perhaps the biggest surprise of all is going to be this particular record, which some people might wonder what's going on, because the third artist that I'm going to talk about that I just could never really get into is Johnny Marr. And you might think that is weird because I am such a big Smiths fan. I love his guitar playing in the Smiths. I love what he did with and Electronic and Modest Mouse. I think he's an unparalleled guitarist. I think he's really, really good. Unfortunately, when I hear his solo music, I was disappointed because, I mean, his singing is serviceable. It's unremarkable. It gets the job done. But I think it's kind of unremarkable. Though I will say that I think his singing has gotten better over time. When he does Smith's covers, I'm kind of amused. But at the same time, I was wishing I would hear Morrissey sing them. In fact, if you gave me the choice of listening to Johnny Marr sing Smith songs or Morrissey as a solo artist sing Smith songs, I would choose Morrissey, of course. So yeah, a really great musician, but not someone that... In fact, I don't even know if I will buy... If another Johnny Marr record comes out, will I get it? I don't know, because I am a little underwhelmed. All right. Where am I now? Boy. Show an album from an artist whose character disappoints you, or can you separate the artist from the art? I think I can. So I think 2 people that come up often in this kind of context are Van Morrison, and I sort of appreciate why people say that, and Morrissey. But to be honest, I continue to listen to Van Morrison. If Morrissey apparently signed a new deal, if he releases a record this year, I'm going to buy it. So I think I can separate them. I understand why people have concerns about certain artists, not just these 2, there's others. But unless someone's like been imprisoned for murder or something like that, maybe even that wouldn't stop me. I think I can separate it. Number 14, if you had to sell all of your vinyl, which one that day will come at some point, along with your record player, show the one album you would hold on to as a keepsake. A few things occurred to me. One was the Smiths, which you've already seen, The Queen is Dead. But I think I would choose this one, because the music is brilliant and because the album cover is really great, and that is Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures. Now, I do have a blemish on my cover here. There's maybe a sticker there at some point, but this record is phenomenal. And secondly, the cover design is really great. It's sort of minimal in a way, but they have this really interesting... There's a story about this, which I won't bother you with. But I think I would choose this record just because I think it's great on 2 aspects. So we'll keep Joy Division. All right, number 15. Discuss your VC highlight of 2025. If that's a video, link to it, and I will. But it could be a meetup or some event. So there's 2 things that occurred to me, which maybe not be, being honest with the answer here. But one is the Jack from the Vinyl Voyage ran a quiz show this year, and my performance was less than stellar. I did very poorly, if you ask me. But again, I get to know Jack a little bit better, and my competitor Christian. So that was good. It was fun to do that. I would say the major thing would be the MGK Boston Buffalo meetup. I had gone the previous year when it was in Boston, so I've gone 2 years in a row, and I will be going again this year, of course. I think that's really unparalleled. You can learn you learn about somebody from the videos you watch. You get an extra sort of insight into them from being on live streams with them, but there's nothing really as good as meeting someone in person. So I loved those 2 meetups. I am looking forward to this year's. The other reason, of course, is I got to meet the famous David Atkinson. He's someone that was on top of my list for years. Name your favorite musical biopic if you have one. And for that, I'm going to choose 24-Hour Party People, about Factory Records. Now, I haven't seen this in a very long time, but the soundtrack is right up my alley. Let me list a few artists. Sex Pistols, Happy Mondays, Joy Division, Buzzcocks, The Clash, New Order, the Drudy Column, what else? 808 State, etc. a really interesting movie about the people associated with Factory Records, which for many years, and maybe still is my favorite, it doesn't really exist, I guess, my favorite record label of all time. I think they were brilliant. Okay. Give 3 reasons why jazz matters and show a favorite album. Well, I'm not the biggest jazz fan in the world. I do have some jazz on vinyl. Most of it is on compact disc, and I do appreciate it. I mean, it's kind of foundational for some other kinds of music. I mean, it influenced many different kinds of music, including the music we listen to most, or at least I listen to most, like rock music. Even Steely Dan, if you don't like Steely Dan, there's something interesting about the way they approached it from a jazz perspective. I also think about prog rock. I know prog rock has a lot of classical influences, but I think you could argue there's some jazz influences there, especially when you hear King Crimson's improvs and that sort of thing. So the prog element, the improv element, just generally speaking. But I will say that given the choice, I would like to listen to jazz live. I think it has that extra element that you don't get on a recorded version. And my favorite jazz, I couldn't even really decide what my favorite jazz album is. And I don't have a vinyl copy of this, but I do really appreciate Miles Davis' Kind of Blue. I think this is just one of those records that's just fantastic. This was a birthday present I got many years ago from a friend of mine whose name is Cyrus. I wonder what year that was now, but really fantastic album. All right. Next question, number 18. We're getting there, guys. You're an innocent man or woman on death row. They give you one last musical request. What do you ask for? My first thought on that, when hearing that question, is why would you think I'm innocent? I think I'd be guilty. I'd be, ready for the punishment. And some people have given some really clever answers, like these really long pieces of music. But I think that for me, can I find the record? Yes, here it is. I would probably choose something that sort of fits the theme. So I've chosen Gallows Pole by Led Zeppelin. I mean, if I'm going to the gallows or some form of the gallows, why not embrace that and include a song about what is happening, right? So there's a couple of other songs about that sort of capital punishment, but let's stick with that one. Sell your favorite artist to a new listener, show one essential album and explain why they should make time for it. That's a tough one to do. And I know some people will assume, I don't know what people assume because of various videos I've done, but I would say that my favorite artist is Leonard Cohen. So here's I'm Your Man. This is an essential record. This is the record that really brought him back to the world. You know, in Canada, there was a certain period of time when you couldn't even find his music or his books. And this is the record that kind of brought him back to the popular attention from 1988 with the classic I'm Your Man. First We Take Manhattan, who he let Jennifer Warnes record it first with Stevie Ray Vaughan. And some, great enduring tracks like Tower of Song, and one of my favorite deep tracks, which is, now I'm drawing a blank, I can't forget, really, really strong Leonard Cohen album. A bit on the synthy side and keyboards, which became sort of a thing he did later in life, but you can't argue with the lyrics and you can't argue with that image of him looking like Don Johnson eating a banana. So Leonard Cohen, and one of the reasons I like him, well, there's many reasons I like him, because I think, I will concede, I think Bob Dylan is probably a musical genius. Maybe, I think he's a musical genius, but I think in terms of lyrics, I don't think you can beat Leonard Cohen. In favorite lyricists of the 20th and 21st century, Leonard Cohen, no question. And that's probably true because he started as a poet. There's a copy of Let Us Compare Mythologies from 1956. He wrote 3 novels, well, 2 plus the unpublished and then later published novel. So really rich literary legacy. So I think his lyrics are fantastic. Here is Canadian Poets 1, which includes a number of Canadian poets, including Leonard Cohen, who is pictured here, and he reads a few poems on this collection. It's a very difficult to find record, by the way, and has a short bio in here. So Leonard Cohen, and he's influenced many, many musicians from all around the world. In fact, even in Scandinavia, etc. And here is one of my, probably the best tribute album to him, I'm Your Fan, which includes tributes from Pixies, R.E.M., House of Love, Lloyd Cole, Ian McCulloch from Echo and the Bunnymen, Nick Cave, John Cale, yes, James, That Petrol Emotion, etc. There are other tribute albums, some in foreign languages, which I have. This is probably the best one, if you ask me. It's just terrific. And you can see that his influence was far and wide. Let me show you one other thing that I don't think I've ever shown on my channel before. This is a compact disc from Leonard Cohen, Songs from a Room. And yes, that is his autograph. That's probably a story for another day. But yeah, Leonard Cohen, clearly my favorite artist, and has been since probably 1980 or 81. Okay, final question. Here we go. You're arranging a VC meetup for 2026. So the good news is I don't have to, because MGK is doing it. Excluding those you've already met, invite 3 people you'd most like to meet. This is one of those questions where, you know, you're doing a vinyl contest, a VC contest or something, and they ask you to shout out one channel. You're like, why just one? So I don't know if I can name just 3. First of all, the person that occurred to me as the person I'd like to meet most, I've already met him, and that's David Atkinson. So let me just say that I have met, and I had to count it up, I have met 29 VC personalities, hosts, whatever you want to call them, 29 in person, so 29. And then there's a large number of people I've met through live streams or online chats that have happened, or various things like that. So that brings the number up much higher, and I don't know how many people that is, but I've met a lot of people. So excluding all of those people, there are certain personalities you like to meet because they were important to you when you were deciding to set up your channel. So people in that respect would be like Rob Walker, or someone who's had a channel for a while and you found it and you found it really important to watch. But I also kind of break this down by geography. So in the UK, apart from David Atkinson, the other people I'd like to meet are there, the aforementioned Rob Walker, James Griffiths, Harris Pilton, the 6-inch pianist, Mike Vino Spiral, Chris Mann, I'm going to forget people, Carl Tweed, Gordon, Jack from the Vinyl Voyage, all those people I'd like to meet. So that's more than 3. And then even in Canada, I've met a few from Canada, but there's several people, even not that far away, that I haven't met. So, you know, Curtis Young, Jason, I mean, there's a lot of people. It's sort of Jeff, there's so many people. In the States, I think of people that I should have met last year, like Greg from 3 Dimensions of Music was planning to come to MGK's party, but didn't make it. I'm thinking of like Vinyl Sean, a newer channel, Mark Morris, who I find endlessly fascinating. I mean, could I mention more people? Yes, I could mention more people like Americana Sam. Boy, there's just... and then there's people like that are in the UK. I've met Ben Rankins before, but there's Brian, there's Mick. I mean, it's just too many people to mention. So I fail in mentioning only 3. But let me just say that if you have a vinyl community challenge and I haven't met you, I'd like to meet you. So that's my way out of that question. All right, so we're at almost 38 minutes. I think that's enough. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.